let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex between a husband and a wife. And before we're married, we do anything we can, right, to get them in the bed. And after we're married, it takes an act of Congress to get there. But you know what? Marriage is so important. It's the most important aspect of relationship. It's the most important model for relationships, and sex is important in that marriage model because it's the marriage covenant. It's the marriage seal. In most states, still, until you consummate your marriage by having sex with your spouse, it's not considered legal, and that's was based on the model from Genesis, from the very first marriage. And in the very first chapter, God tells Adam and Eve, He says, "Hey, go forth and multiply." Well, how are you going to multiply? Yeah, having sex, right? And even if it's not in the act of just consummation for procreation, sex was created by God, designed by God to be pleasurable, to be fun, to be enjoyed between a husband and a wife. Like Leah laughs, and it kind of threw me off one day. She said it in a group. She goes, like, sure, sex was created to be pleasurable. Like the clitoris serves no other purpose but for pleasure, right? So, and we got to get away from that old notion that, well, the missionary position. Like I said, whoever thought of that and put that idea in people's heads that like that believers and you're gonna live a godly covenant marriage, all you can do is the missionary position. I'd like to punch them in the throat because they've denied generations of the pleasure of having sex with each other's spouse. Now, I'm not saying the missionary position is bad, right? But it's not our only option. And it's important that you and your spouse do have sex. And people are like, well, it just God just He's so restrictive. He takes the fun out of everything. But listen, nowhere in the Bible is there a list of things you can and cannot do. Okay, the only boundaries, the only limitations. Number one is that it remains between you and your spouse, right? And that it's consensual between the two of you, and it's pleasurable for both of you. And that's to prevent a dominating situation where one's forcing the other to do something that they're not comfortable with. But between husband and wife, there's no limits. So if you're thinking, oh well, the church wants to restrict this or the Bible says that, that is not the case. God designed marriage to honor relationships, the relationship with Him, the relationship with your spouse. And in that relationship between you and your spouse is sex. And sex is the covenant seal of marriage. It's what keeps you together. Or again, as Leah likes to say, she's got a lot of sayings, and she makes me get up and say it, but she calls sex the sticky glue that keeps marriage together. So sex is designed to be pleasurable, to be shared only between a husband and a wife. And so if your marriage is having troubles, what's one of the first thing to go? Sex, because that's intimacy, that's sharing your physical expression. That goes back to the 224 command and from Genesis, and it says that the husband will leave his mother and father and join his wife, and the two shall become one. One of the ways of the two becoming one, is through the act of sex. So get at it, right? God designed it to be pleasurable and honorable and enjoyed between a husband and a wife. So God bless you. Leah and I love you. Thank you for your service.